efforts being made to try and get the case out of court. Stay with us. We'll get into the details. Also, there is a case study indicating that we have a number of women who are having childbirth deformities as a result of the impact of illegal mining. Stay with us. We'll give you details of this here on Ghana Tonight. Unfortunately, yet another boat accident claims lives of 9 school children at Fana in the Wejagbawe municipality in Accra while they were on their way to school. We're in the area earlier today to capture the rather tragic moments. Stay with us. We'll bring you details tonight. And we have the Ghana National Association of Teachers, NAT, and also the Africa Education Watch Executive Director Kofi Asare going to be joining us on Ghana Tonight. Let's hear from you. As always, we are very, very interactive. You have a say in what we say on Ghana Tonight. The hashtag is Ghana Tonight on Facebook and Twitter. Let's get talking. Well, let's settle for Ghana Briefs. Nine pupils died on Wednesday evening after the canoe they were traveling on from school in Kele to Fana in the Wejagbawe municipality capsized. A visit to the community shows at first hand the grief, anger, and despair of yet another inland water travel accident.
Coming, then the boy took us. Then I told her, said that we are plenty inside the boat, so she will move some people down. The boy told me that she will go, so nothing will happen. When we are going, then the boat come and sink.
When they open the wager, the river becomes too much, but they still cross and come. So when they come, we actually close them early. They leave here around 2. We close around 3:30.
If they try to construct a little bridge for them to cross, it will be better.
In reaction to the boat accident, which claimed 7 lives of pupils in the Wejak municipality, the Ghana National Association of Teachers has served notice of a nationwide demonstration together with school children to demand government provides life jackets for school children on island communities.
In fact, what has happened this time around, we might say never again should this thing happen to the children of this country. The children of this country deserve better. They deserve better. Together with their teachers, they deserve better.
An Accra High Court has rejected an application from founder of the defunct Capital Bank, Atuesian, to renegotiate with the state after he failed to pay another tranche of the 20 million cedis as part of a 90 million cedis he is supposed to refund to the state to avoid a custodial sentence. Atuesian was convicted and ordered to repay the state after entering into agreement with the Attorney General. He has so far paid 34 million cedis, but was required to pay another 20 million cedis by April 28, 2023. The Institute of Economic Affairs, IEA, is advocating the establishment of an independent parliamentary budget office to monitor Ghana's monetary and fiscal systems. Addressing some civil society organizations in Accra, Director of Research at the Institute of Economic Affairs, Dr. John Kwachi, said a stricter monetary and fiscal management system is required to transform the economy.
We can't allow any finance minister to take us to 100% and come back and do domestic debt exchange and seize pensioners' funds.
Before we proceed to do any elections, we take provisions from our constitution to be the basic law. Now, within the NDC constitution, there is a provision that allows the national executive to formulate guidelines to take care of situations that have not been expressly provided for in our constitution. And so with this particular elections, we provided guidelines.
Well, that's the chairman of the NDC, Johnson Nketia there. Stay with me. We'll have the full details of that exclusive interview with Johnson Nketia tonight. He has a lot to share on the happening so far with respect to the injunction sought by Dr. Kwabena Dufour, the efforts by the hierarchy of the party to get this case out of court, and whether or not the primaries, the presidential and parliamentary primaries of the NDC will come off on Saturday. All those answers. Stay with me here on Ghana Tonight. We'll bring you the full details of that interview. It's coming up shortly. But the fate of these primaries with these delegates, at least the numbers that we have so far, is still yet unknown. Look at this. The Greater Accra region, now the number of delegates, just a little over 69,000. That's about 69,415. You see the Ashanti region as well, 61,967. It goes to the eastern, the central, the western, the Volta, and the northern region you see there. And then also you have the Upper East region, also just a little over 13,800. The Bono East region follows in that order. The Bono East region, over 13,000. The Upper West region, 11,288. The Western North, the OT region, and the Ahafo region has the least number of delegates of the NDC. Now, all what they are waiting for is what to do next. What we do know is that a number of them had planned ahead of Saturday. So definitely, whatever the outcome of the court hearing tomorrow or the decision by the meeting, we understand there's been a crunch meeting that's been taking place since afternoon, led by the chairman of the Council of Elders of the NDC, trying to get this case out of court. We don't know so far what's happened as yet, but it's something that we're keeping a close eye of into the details of it. But this is what the Electoral Commission has also stated concerning tomorrow. They make the point that, take a look, the interlocutory injunction restrains the Electoral Commission from supervising presidential and parliamentary election of the NDC. The alleged anomalies with the register must be addressed, and the Electoral Commission say it doesn't want to be cited for contempt, so we'll wait until the court determination. Also, yesterday, what we got to know from Dr. Shiribo Kweko, that you see his picture there, that if the case is even determined by tomorrow, that's Friday, May 12, the Electoral Commission cannot prepare adequately by Saturday, May 13, because of the turnaround time. So those are the two hurdles the NDC will have to deal with, as to having an agreement with the Electoral Commission that, you know what, even if the court rules tomorrow or we get the case out of court, you shall still help to supervise the elections on Saturday. There's been an argument whether the NDC can go ahead with these primaries without the Electoral Commission's supervision. That's another matter that we'll deal with as we go on Ghana Tonight. This is the NDC's Director of Legal as well, the issues that he raised yesterday. Ibrahim Maliba says that the issues that Dr. Dufour is in court for can actually be dealt with outside of the courts. And indeed, the computer can deal with the duplicates that he raises. Dr. Dufour's actions, he says, is filled with mischief, frivolous, and can disorganize the party's efforts. Those are the issues, if you listen to him yesterday on Ghana Tonight, he talked about. Now, take a look at this. These are the concerns that Dr. Dufour has been talking about. Issues about the photo album, which he says is inaccurate and unreliable. And on that particular point, together with the others that he has raised, the chairman of the NDC, Johnson Nketia, is going to be answering those questions about this photo album as to why the party thought it wise to add it also as another layer of verification and transparency. And what is the positioning of the law concerning the party's usage of the photo album for its internal elections? That's another issue that we're going to get details of tonight. So stay with me. Up next, right after this quick break, we have that exclusive interview with the chairman of the NDC, Johnson Nketia, coming up on Ghana Tonight, right after this quick break. Stay with us. We'll be back shortly. You're welcome back. This is Ghana Tonight. We're live on TV3 Ghana on Facebook, DSTV channel 279. We're all across the world on 3news.com. That's always very interactive. Let's hear from you. A number of things have been happening ahead of the NDC's presidential and parliamentary primaries on Saturday. Topical is that injunction sought by Dr. Kwabena Dufour and the party's efforts to try and get this matter out of court. What we do know is that there's been some meetings taking place earlier today involving the hierarchy of the party. In fact, the chairman of the Council of Elders have been speaking to also us off air, giving indication that there is some effort to try and get the Dr. Dufour team to agree to take this matter out of court. We do not know how this meeting ended or even if it's ended at all. But the chairman of the NDC, Johnson Nketia, has been speaking exclusively to my colleague Dennis Wadam and Lord Edward Sari also about what the party intends to do and a message to the delegates as well, and indeed the Ghanaian people. Take a look.
Before we proceed to do any elections, we take provisions from our constitution to be the basic law. Now, within the NDC constitution, there is a provision that allows the national executive to formulate guidelines to take care of situations that have not been expressly provided for in our constitution. And so, with this particular elections, we provided guidelines. And everything in the guidelines, we have stuck to them. And I don't see where these complaints are coming from. One of the complaints seems to surround the delegates list. In fact, we choose our words very, very carefully. A delegate list remains a delegate list. A delegate list cannot be misconstrued to mean photo album. There are two different documents. We are bound by the guidelines to provide a delegate list within a certain time frame. That has been provided to all our candidates, including Dr. Dufour. Okay. Now, the delegate list essentially is the list of the delegates who will be participating in the elections. So we give it out to candidates once they are pronounced to be candidates. That is, if they are able to scale the vetting, we give them the delegate list. That is to assist them in reaching out to the persons who will be casting the ballot on the voting day. So after vetting, we gave this to the various persons who made it through the vetting. Fortunately for us, the NDC delegate list is made up of title holders or duty bearers. We have the bulk of our delegates being branch executives. In every branch, we have 9 executives throughout the country. The latest count, I think we have about 38,000 or so branches. The 38,000 branches are coterminous with the Electoral Commission's polling stations. So when the Electoral Commission creates more polling stations, we create more branches in tandem. Okay. And you'll be able to know when you determine the number of polling stations in the country as per Electoral Commission's register, you know the number of branches that NDC has. So we have stuck to this very religiously. So if you want to know the number of delegates coming from our branches, even if you are not in our party, just go and take Electoral Commission's data about the number of polling stations the Electoral Commission has, multiply it by 9. Then you have the NDC delegates who are coming from branches to vote. Then you come to constituency level, each one of the 276 constituencies has 28 executives. So, and they are all delegates. So you add the constituency executives to the branch executives. Okay. Then you come to regional executives. Each one of the 16 regions has a certain number of executives. You multiply by 16, and then you get the people who are coming from the regional executives to come and cast their votes. Then national, you know the number of national executives. So these figures are given, they are there. Nobody can change anything if you want to contest. And you come out to say that, well, you are supposed to have this number of constituency executives. We have seen that you have more than 276 times 28. So the number of constituency executives that you have provided in the delegate list is more than what we have. Then you are in conversation with us. Then we can look at it. And then after all this, now you come to the next batch of duty bearers. We have members of parliament. They are entitled to vote. Former members of parliament who are NDC have votes. Former DCEs who are NDC have votes. And they come with titles. I'm not sure anybody can fake anybody as a former MP and put the name in the voters register. It cannot happen. Then, after that, you have our delegates from our foreign chapters. So they too, they have a certain number of delegates per chapter. So that chapter would have 15 delegates. So if times the number of branches we have, and the number of branches we have externally is also known by everybody. So in all this, when you put all this together, you realize that there is not a single person who will be entitled to vote who doesn't come with a certain capacity or a certain title. So it is not an easy thing for anybody to put anybody's name there. So if you have a possession of our delegate list, and you come and say that, well, we have seen names A, B, C who are there, but who are not branch executives or constituency executives or regional executives or foreign delegates. Where do they come from? Then we are in good conversation. So far, nobody has challenged the list along those lines. When the delegate list is available and you are going to cast your vote, as happened in the National Congress, you go there and identify yourself, they find your name, and then you cast your vote. There are no pictures. Okay. Because of the high stakes in this particular election, we decided to go out of our way, in fact, out of the guidelines, to provide more transparency measures, to assure everybody that nobody will come to complain after the election. Okay, that is why we decided to build what we call a photo album. So the photo album will assist at the polling station for us to identify faces with the particulars that you have in the delegate list. So the picture album is to help us in maintaining more transparency in the voting so that nobody can impersonate when you are coming to cast your vote. And we thought that this should be good news for all our candidates. And so the charge that Dr. Dufour's group is raising is that they did not receive the photo album in good time. And we are saying that the photo album is not a requirement. We are bound to give you a delegate list, which we have given you a long time ago. This photo album is something that we are developing that will help us during the voting day at the polling station. So it cannot be a condition you want to force us to satisfy.
So that makes
Because the guidelines, it is not in no mention of photo album in our guidelines at all. And you took the guideline, you subscribed to it, and you filed, and we gave you the delegates list. So if you don't understand how a register is constructed, you may be misled into these beliefs, and you will be taking actions that will amount to just disrupting the party's programs unnecessarily. How can the party's register be bloated? If you are able to tell us that we have more branch executives than what we should have, then at least pinpoint one person who is not a branch executive but whose name has been found in the register. Nobody has been able to tell us that Kwesi or Kwabena has his name here, but we can attest that he's not a delegate. Nobody. So far, all the noise, nobody has. They are talking about percentages and claiming that 2% is bloated by 2%. What is 2%? Tell us the person, at least one person. So the 2% doesn't represent human beings. And if that person is not in the category of persons whose names or who are entitled to vote, then we are in good business. Together we will sort the name out. But so far nobody has told us anything. And we gave the register to them several weeks ago. Nobody has come to tell us that the name is on. They are rather jumping from the register to photo album, which is a mechanism to help us to identify persons. And that is what is the basis of their. Our preparations are up to date at this stage. Whatever the outcome of the court will be, we will adjust our next program going forward from after the court hearing. We have not called off the elections yet because we don't know what the outcome of the court will be. So things are where they are, and then after the court decides, we will take a decision based on what the court directs. We are assuring them that party leadership has done nothing wrong. We have tried as much as possible to abide faithfully by the guidelines we issued to conduct the elections. I've not been part of the people who've been taken to court. I've not been included either by title of national chairman or by my name as Nketia. So that gives me some leverage as leader of the party to be able to bring everybody together for us to discuss the issues according to our party's processes. I've been trying to get people around the table to do that. I haven't succeeded completely, but we are still working along that one. So we have party processes underway and these court processes underway. But we would have liked that the party processes will be exhausted first before the court processes trigger in. Be that as it may, we are still trying to run the party processes side by side, the court processes. So whichever yields results first, we'll go by it.
That's the chairman of the NDC, Johnson Esiedo Nketia, there in that exclusive interview with my colleagues Dennis Wadam and Lord Eduasari there exclusively here on Ghana Tonight. So responded to a number of things, including the fact that they haven't called off the elections as yet. That's on record. Number two, that the party leadership says has not done anything wrong. The photo album, which is one of the major issues that the 4 team raises, it says is only an additional layer of verification, and also the party's commitment to ensuring transparency in the electoral process. Reason why they added this photo album, but it is not necessarily a requirement. That indeed comes as clarity and information to many people who have been looking into this particular issue. We're monitoring quite closely that meeting that we understand is taking place between the councillors, elders of the party, and the Dr. Dufour team and the NDC leadership as well. So stay with me here on Ghana Tonight. But Dr. Makoba is a political science lecturer at the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology, KNUST. Also Asenswatri is a lecturer of political science at the University of Cape Coast. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us on Ghana Tonight. Start with you, Mr. Asenswatri. For what we just heard the party chair say before he ended, that he's been trying to get everybody around the table. So far, he has not succeeded. You've been looking into the crystal ball. What do you see to be the challenge in there?
I would say good evening to our viewers. The point is that, and you don't have to, beat around the bush. If you ask me, the reason basically is those who have been surrounding the noble Dr. Dufour. And I will not mince words, but I have to mention the likes of Roger Metonono, the likes of Solomon Nkansa, and then that of Messiah Watinjan. Of course, we are equally aware that in the media, it is not a secret that Mr. Anyidoho, has equally been an ardent critic, of Mr. Mahama and the chairman himself. And if you have the likes of the names that I've mentioned, who are virtually counseling Dr. Dufour, then obviously they'll be poisoning the mind of the noble, former minister of finance and the former governor of the Bank of Ghana. And it is quite surprising that he will allow himself to be misled.
I see, but Mr. Asenswatri, help me understand this. But why do you narrow it down to these people that you suspect that they are the ones who are pushing an agenda of their own and influencing Dr. Dufour to take this position?
Well, these are people who were not some time ago were in the good books of Mr. JDM, John Mahama, the former president, to be precise, and to the effect that one of the witnesses of the former president's petition, against the 2020 petition, electoral petition against the MPP, he was one of the chief witnesses of the former president. And so if today you find such a personality in the camp of Dr. Dufour, suddenly, the turnaround couldn't have been just a mere fluke. It should have been some kind of, or it might emanate from some kind of systemic planning, on the part of these categories of people that I've mentioned. And there is no way, nobody can convince me otherwise, that these categories of people have not been part of those poisoning the mind of the noble doctor. Because I am aware that, the party leadership, as it stands now, looking at the effect that this will have, the monumental effect that this could have should the primaries be postponed, they are engaging the noble doctor to understand and come out, to have an out-of-court, settlement. That in itself will ensure that it is a win-win situation for all the contestants, all the competing factions within the party. That, for me, is the right way to go. But as it stands now, if Dr. Dufour will have to accept an out-of-court settlement, it will have to be on the behest of those categories of people that I've mentioned.
Yes, you mentioned Roger Metonono and also Fitbafo and the likes. But you know what? Stay with me, Mr. Nketia. Dr. Makoba, you had the chairman of the party as well talk about the fact that this photo album, which is one of the issues that the Dufour team raises, is not really a requirement. The party only added it as another layer of trying to ensure transparency in the process. They say they've made the delegate list available to all the presidential candidates as well. Is it that they cannot go ahead with this election until there's a supervision by the EC? You raised the constitutional question in there. Why?
That's not how you read a constitution. Just because there's no provision violated does not mean you can do it. You see, that's not how you interpret the constitution. Besides, the electoral commissioner has not been given the authority to interpret the constitution, even if the only part that applies to them. They should get get information from the Supreme Court if they don't find anything. That's how they're supposed to do it. Because constitutional interpretation is not only based on what is written in the Constitution. Sometimes an oversight, they forgot it, but you interpret the Constitution by two things: what is written and also the spirit of the Constitution. The spirit is the overall purpose of that provision. And so the Supreme Court can still give direction as to how they should do it. For you to come and read the Political Party Act and say there's nothing in it, therefore you can do whatever, it's irresponsible. No, you can't do that. So the political party, can they go over there and they all in favor, raise your hand, and they elect a candidate? Can they do that? No. This is a national election, and it has to be under the supervision of the Electoral Commission.
I see.
Just because it's not mentioned does not mean you can do whatever you want.
Anyway, but let me understand this. So you're saying that the NDC cannot organize these primaries without the supervision of the Electoral Commission? Because yesterday on this program, the Director of Electoral Service of the Electoral Commission said even if they settle this matter tomorrow, the Electoral Commission may not be able to have a good turnaround time to mobilize resources to supervise the elections on Saturday. They cannot do these primaries without the EC supervision.
Yes, it shouldn't be able to. It shouldn't. They should go to court and find out what should happen, not by their own volition decide to do whatever they want. This is a national election because the Constitution says national, regional, and constitutional elections must be supervised by the Electoral Commission. And how can you go and do it? Is this a local election? Is it? It isn't. It is for national purpose. One of these guys may even become the president. And how come you are the one going to decide? You see, NDC slowly, it's almost like the party itself has become the organ to be contested for. They are using high fees. Can you imagine 500,000 cedis filing fee? How many people in Ghana have 5,000, let alone 500,000? How? It should be illegal. The Constitution says political parties must be organized along constitutional and democratic lines. Is it democratic to raise such a high fee? It's become a preventer of poor people. Not so. So only rich people can run for president in this country. That's what it means. But that's what it means. 500,000. Why? The Electoral Commission itself is 100,000. Even that I think is high. If you think you have rascals join the ranks of candidates running for the presidency, well, there are ways of avoiding that. There's disqualification based on education, experience, and so forth. That aside, if you have too many candidates, just run two tiers. First round, eliminate so many of them, and then go back again. This is how it's done in most places. I don't know, our Constitution provides for that. If no candidate gets the vote, you run again. Why are we not doing that? Why are the political parties, they're taking shortcuts because they say it's too expensive. But is that how you do it? No. It's not acceptable and should not be allowed to happen.
Mm-hmm.
You say 500,000, and then you elect your executive, and they tell the MPs in Parliament who should be in charge of Parliament. That is not how it's done. They should not be able to reach into Parliament to tell the parliamentarians who should be in charge, who should be this and who should be that. They elect their own leaders. Now, they can inform the party executive, yes, but the party executive cannot come in and directly say, we want this one, and we want this one. Now, look at what is happening. If you pick the party leaders in Parliament, and by your high fees, you pick your presidential candidate, well, the party, you are working for the party. Where are the people? There's a government of the party for the party, run by the party. That's what it is.
I see.
It should not be accepted.
Right. Dr. Okoba, thank you. Now, Mr. Asensor-Twi, finally, before I let you go, will all of these development, and bear in mind the fact that Dr. Dufour's son is also contesting the parliamentary primaries as well, will this impact on him, that is Dr. Dufour's son, in any way?
Certainly, no two ways about that. I have said earlier on that, look, Dr. Dufour could have attracted sympathy votes, could have attracted non-aligned, could have attracted the vote of undecided, as it were, because it is his first time, he's a nobleman, a man of nobility, and so on and so forth. But the direction that he has told, based upon the ill advices of the categories of people that I've mentioned, will have a monumental effect on his son. Because as it stands now, there is a huge propaganda against him at the grassroots, from the cadres, and from even the elite of the party. Because, Alfred, believe you me, if this particular election does not hold on Saturday, look at the effect. People have killed animals. They are going to feed thousands of people. And you don't expect that those in the hinterlands, they are going to have any kind of huge cold store that they are going to keep things of that nature. Two, don't forget that there are delegates coming from abroad who have already booked their ticket. Some probably might have arrived. Have you calculated such a cost? You have not. If you have not, then it means that you did not ensure that things were done rightly. Then also, I don't blame Dr. Dufour because he has been misinformed and disinformed. So there is a deliberate disinformation going on.
I see. That's how you'll see it. We'll see how the next 24 hours will look like. Mr. Sensoche, thank you so much for your time. He is a lecturer at the University of Cape Coast. He's a political analyst as well. To you, Dr. Amwakoba, thank you for your time as well. He is a senior lecturer at the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology, as well as a political scientist. Gentlemen, appreciate your time on Ghana Tonight.